What's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of World Wrestling Sit Down. I am your host, the professional Sean Lathrop. This is presented by Middle Kingdom Wrestling. And joining at this time is a professional wrestler from the great nation of Korea, Siho. Mr. Siho, how are you doing tonight?
I'm great. Thank you for having me here.
As I just mentioned, Korea.
Mm-hmm.
This is the
No,
first time we're
of course.
hitting. This is the first time we're hitting Korea in the World Wrestling Sit Down series, and not many people really know about wrestling in Korea outside of the WCW event years ago of Collision in Korea. So, I'm assuming South Korea, yes?
Right, of course, it's a South Korea.
Yeah, and the Collision was in North Korea, so
Right.
we know even less
So,
then.
yeah, it like North Korea and South Korea is quite separated. So
Yeah.
of course, I heard about the pay-per-view in North Korea, but it's not really related with South Korea.
I mean, that's pretty much all we know. So I really want to open up the gates, though. What is
Mm.
South Korean pro wrestling?
Well, first of all, talking about South Korean pro wrestling history is quite a long story, but to be short, it used to be very big since 50 to 80 and 90. But after 2000 it just got really go downward spiral, and now here we are, and the Korean pro wrestling, like South Korean pro wrestling market is, I can say, it's all dead.
See, I didn't even know they even existed, really.
Yeah,
like,
that's why. Well, until 90, like, it was quite famous, like many wrestlers from different countries like JBL, like John Bradshaw Layfield, and other few wrestlers used to work here as well. But in after 2000, it just went down, and the people started forgetting about pro wrestling. Before that, it was like it gained national popularity in Korea. Like there were many old school Korean pro wrestler that every Korean remember, but it just went down, and nobody watched it anymore, and all those promotions just started disappearing. But starting 2010, there were many new promotions, including my promotions, like young wrestlers who want to get back those popularity. So that's why we are working really, really hard.
so does it really just have to do with the upswing of professional wrestling around the world? Because that seems to be about the time professional wrestling went into another boom period again.
Right. That's what we are aiming for. When the boom goes down, and when it goes really, really down, there's only one way, is going up again. And whenever we threw outdoor show in Korea, many youngsters who are not really familiar with pro wrestling, they really love it. They really love our work. They really love our show, and they are really curious about our work, because probably, for a Korean youngster, they've never seen a live pro wrestling show in Korea, like beside WWE from TV. So yeah, it's pretty probable.
But the thing is, with the fact that, as you kind of mentioned, it's kind of in an upswing, it was kind of dead prior to 2010. You actually weren't trained in Korea then. You were trained in Japan, correct?
No, actually, I was trained in Korea.
Oh, by a
In my
Japanese
case, I
wrestler,
started
yeah.
my pro wrestling career in 2012.
Hmm.
Uh, I was uh, I was just, as a wrestling fan, I was watching this pro wrestling promotion called PLA, Professional Live Action, one of the Korean pro wrestling promotion in Korea. And I became a huge fan of them, and they suggested me to train with them. And since then, I got trained by a Korean pro wrestler called Hyena. And also, luckily, I had the opportunity to get trained from wrestlers from different countries. For example, like I have one of the trainer called Joe from Japan. He used to wrestle in Zero One and many other Japanese pro wrestling promotion, and he taught me some this Japanese pro wrestling and psychologies. And also, I have this Mexican luchador called Rockstar from Mexico, and he came to Korea just for traveling, and he just somehow started working with us, and then he taught me some lucha moves, and also there were several many American guy who came from America, of course, and worked with us, and they taught me some American psychology and American wrestling style, like. So I learned from so many different people, like Bryson Scott from Texas Pro Wrestling, and Leo Aluev, a really veteran wrestler, and many other American wrestlers. So for me, considering the really poor pro wrestling environment in Korea, I was really lucky that I could learn so many different styles from so many different people. But I can say that my origin of pro wrestling, my pro wrestling style, is hugely influenced by the Korean pro wrestler Hyena. He's also a promoter of PLA.
With you, having such the original background of Korean professional wrestling, and then learning more and more about the American wrestling style as your career continued. I'm curious, what's really the big difference between the Korean and the American? Is it more of a hard hitting style? Is it, as you kind of said, a more of a lucha style?
Well, talking about Korean style, there are not really a Korean style that we can define because we're still building on it. There are a few promotions in Korea currently, and they all have different style. Like some promotion have like totally like traditional Japanese style, while PLA kind of focus on more like WWE style. So it's kind of hard to tell what is Korean style because everybody have different style in Korea. In my case, so we are, as much as possible, we try to accept many other different styles and mix it and try to make it our own style. So it's kind of ongoing. So I cannot tell the definite differences between American style and Korean style.
I mean, you're definitely entering the Korean style. You recently went over to Brainbuster Pro, I believe it is, in
Right,
Florida,
right.
and made your
In
first
Florida.
American debut.
Hmm.
Uh,
Well, I had a chance to wrestle there because the Johnny Vandal and the Craig John from Zero One, and they are also promoter of the Brainbuster Pro Wrestling, and they gave me a chance to wrestle there. So I went there, and the differences that I found was that every, how can I say, it was more improvising than Korean pro wrestling. Well, in PLA we usually improvise as well, but we try to be really strict when it comes to matchmaking. But it seems like in America, like many wrestler just tend to wrestle more in improvising manner. So I was quite surprised at first time, but we also train to get prepared in that kind of improvising style. So it wasn't a huge problem, but it was pretty interesting to see their different style.
what about you? Is there, because I noticed you enjoy yourself, of course, everyone loves doing it if they can, the super kicks, the hurricanranas, things like that. What's some
Right.
of the biggest influences into your personal style? Like a guy that you really wanted to try and learn from, or sort of. I don't want to say the word mimic, but I think you know what I'm trying to say when I say mimic styles.
Right. Try to like get influence from different
Yeah,
style.
yes, influence. Like a certain wrestler that just influenced your style and look or what have you.
Uh, well, it's hard to say. I usually watch many wrestling shows to learn their different style and to see any moves that I can add in my arsenal. First of all, when I start wrestling, my trainer Hyena always stressed that because I'm really small and not really buffed guy. So for that, I need to move fast. Always, I need to jump from the top rope. I need to fight against those big guys with speedy moves, and that's why I kind of referenced a lot from lucha libre. So I try to pick up lots of moves as much as possible from Mexican pro wrestling. And also, I've seen many wrestlers' video from America who use lots of lucha libre moves and some cruiserweight. I can say John Morrison was my huge influence, like his kick moves and his acrobatic style. I
I can
really,
see
really love
that.
it.
Yeah,
And
go ahead.
mhm.
Yeah, go ahead. Who was there? Another person you were going to say that was beside John Morrison?
John Morrison, and of course, every cruiserweights wrestler's dream, Rey Mysterio. When I was a kid, I used to grow up watching his amazing moves, and I tried to follow his moves, his footstep, and everything that I could learn. Mm, and besides of that, there are not that many wrestlers that I try to mimic.
I mean, no one really wants to mimic as much as they just like want to learn, want to try and pick the brain of. I think that
Like
was really what I wanted to
I
try
just
and hit, I guess,
right, right.
because
Hmm.
there's, I mean, there's only one. Well, actually, there's like five Rey Mysterios, but there's only one of you. Is what I'm trying to say. There's no point in trying to be the next version of another wrestler that already exists.
Exactly.
And
Hmm.
what's interesting about, I guess, your career in that aspect is that there has been a bit of a boom, as we were saying, with professional wrestling, but not just professional wrestling, just the whole everyday kind of look. When we saw in the WWE, everyone loved Daniel Bryan. Outside
Right.
of that, you have the Hoss style, the kind of a bigger guy that can move really well. For a long time, that was Kevin Steen in Ring of Honor, and now he's in WWE. For yourself, you were pointed out that you're a smaller guy, but when at least for the average Korean, when they see someone like you, and even you said it yourself, you're a big fan favorite. They kind of have that connection that he's just like a guy that works with me down wherever my job is down there. Is that something you kind of strive for? That you are the everyday man, just trying to fight as hard as you can?
Right. That's the whole concept of my pro wrestling life. I like wrestling really, really hard. I love having a match with bigger guys than me, and they always give me a lot of hard hitting, lots of beating, and I take that beat. And my idea is, okay, like no matter how hard you beat me, no matter how hard you break me, I'll just take it. And there's gonna be one chance that I can um, there's one chance that I can hit your neck or hit your head, so I can give you lots of damage at that moment, and then I'm gonna I'm gonna wait that moment. So for now, I'm just gonna let you beat me as much as possible, and in the chance that you make one mistake, then that's gonna be the moment that I take you down. And whenever I show this kind of wrestling style, audiences they really sympathize with me because I'm kind of small and just average looking guy. So I love hearing their chant, like their cheering, like especially kids. They cheer me a lot, and especially when I get beat down from bigger guys, lots of kids they cry while they watch my match, and that's one of the biggest fun in pro wrestling. And after I get beat down, and then after I come back with lots of flying moves, then that's where those crowds go really pop. And yeah, that's why I love pro wrestling in that part.
I want to rewind for a second. Did you just say when you make kids cry is when it gets really fun?
Well, I wouldn't say it's fun, but I think it's interesting that kids really cheer for me and really sympathize for me. That makes them actually cry, and that makes me want to fight harder, actually. It really motivates me.
In a sense, wanting to be the ultimate superhero.
Yeah, probably. And I like showing my moves and like flying and taking all the beats and showing that to kids and inspiring them. It feels really amazing.
I mean, in a sense, professional wrestlers, they are the greatest superheroes for a lot of kids growing up. I know I was the exact same way. Diamond Dallas
Hmm.
Page was the greatest superhero for me. Who was your big hero growing up?
Oh man, that's a really good question. That's a $1 million question. So I started watching pro wrestling when I was like 11 years old, 12 years old. I used to watch with my grandma, and at the time it was like 2001, 2002, and my biggest hero at the time was the Brother of Destruction, Undertaker, the Kane. Whenever they fight against those evil Austin, Triple H, I really admire them and really admire their strength and their size and their charisma. And also Chris Jericho. I think also Chris Jericho influenced me a lot in wrestling style and the visual because I real back in 2001 I watched Chris Jericho running around the ring and never take a rest and take down every enemy with his really clever moves like triangle dropkick or lion salt. Those moves were really innovative at the time for me. I was really shocked and inspired. So yeah, Chris Jericho and the Brother of Destruction would be my hero in my childhood.
I mean, that's a pretty decent lineup. All of them are Hall of Famers for sure.
Hmm. For sure.
Well, I want to end it up with one more question for you before we leave this show. You get a setup,
Mhm.
biggest dream match for you, the arena, the event, the opponent, whatever you want. What
Mhm.
is the big match for you?
Like if I ever have a chance.
Absolutely.
Oh man. If I have a chance to have a match with anybody, that would be the Kane. It would be Kane actually. Kane is my favorite wrestler, and I usually, as I said, I enjoy having a match with really big dudes
Mhm.
because it gives a good underdog drama story, and yeah, I think I would have a good, really good match if Kane have a match with me. So yeah, like if I meet him, like one of my favorite that I would ask to him would be choke slamming me through the table. That's kind of silly, but yeah.
I mean, I probably would have said the same thing to DDP, just like, hey, can you just diamond cutter me real quick? It'd be great.
Oh
But
yeah, absolutely.
I guarantee Kane's probably had that a few times of someone just
Yeah,
asking to choke slam him.
you just give me a really warm smile and sudden choke me and lift me really high and slam me into the hell, and I would love it.
I think we need to get you a counselor now, to be honest.
That was fun, man.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the program, man. If you are on the Twitter, the Instagram, Facebooks, go ahead and plug it right now. Where can they find you?
Well, usually I don't really use my Facebook as my promoting, but we do have our PLA Pro Wrestling page. Just go to Facebook or Twitter and or YouTube channel and type professional live action wrestling. Then you will find us and you will find me.
All right, that was a pretty quick way to find it. Get to the promotion, then get to him, and who knows?
Exactly.
Actually, what's one of the upcoming events you guys got coming up?
We usually throw a show once a month, and the next show would be 18th March. So it's gonna be after like 2 or 3 weeks.
All right.
So if anybody who's in Korea, if they have interest in pro wrestling, we are here. So please watch us having a great show.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being a part of the program.
Problem, man. It was great pleasure to talk with you guys.
This was the World Wrestling Sit Down presented by Middle Kingdom Wrestling. Thank you again to Siho for being a part of the program, and check out all of our past episodes, and we got more coming at you. I am the professional Sean Lathrop, the man who sleeps on the floor, can't possibly fall out of bed.